Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to section 1, lesson 2, letters and their sounds, makharij-ul-huroof. In this lesson, we're going to start to get deeper into the letters and their sounds, specifically how they sound and how to pronounce them using your mouth, your lips, etc. So let's get right into it. First, on the agenda today, I'm going to review the previous lesson, quickly go over the alif bata, see if you remember how the alif bata goes and the order. Then we're going to go into the warm-ups, please don't skip those. And then we're going to the instructions part for each letter. And in this lesson, we're going to go from alif through khaa, the first 7 letters. And in the instructions part, I'm going to tell you where the sound from that letter comes from, which is known as makharij-ul-huroof. And we'll go into that separately in just a second, what that means. The characteristics of each letter. Now, just because a letter comes from a particular part of your throat, etc., does not mean that it is similar to the other letters. So a lot of letters come from the lips, a lot of letters come from the throat, but they have different characteristics and how they're pronounced. So I'm going to give you specifics of how they're pronounced. I'm going to go into some similarities of what they sound like from the English language. Specifically, this is going to be beneficial for American English speakers. And then I'm going to go into detailed instructions on pronouncing each letter, how to turn your mouth, how to turn your lips, etc. in order to do them. I'm going to give you the difference between if it's a vowel, if the letter we're discussing is a vowel or a consonant. And I promise there's going to be a lot more detailed discussions on vowels versus consonants and short vowels and long vowels and movements later on. Because, in Arabic, just an FYI, there's a concept such as a long vowel versus a short vowel. And then finally, the exercise and recitation and what you will need. Basically, for the exercise, you will need someone. For this particular video, for the exercise, you are going to need someone. You're not going to be able to do this exercise yourself. The reason is that you will definitely need someone to correct your recitation. Sorry, not correct your recitation, but correct your sounds and basically listen to you to make sure that you're pronouncing correctly before you'll be able to get this correctly. And finally, we're gonna end with the self-test. So let's get into a review of the previous lesson. I hope you remember, but I'm going to quickly go over the letters and from alif through ya, all the letters. So alif, ba, ta, thaa, jiim, haa, khaa, dal, ذال, را, ذا, سين, شين, صاد, ضاد, ضا, ظا, عين, غين, ث, قاف, كاف, لام, ميم, نون, ها, wa, ya. Yeah, I hope you remember that. Next, please do your warm-ups. If you don't know what I'm talking about, in the beginning of this channel, I uploaded the warm-ups video. If you go to my channel or search my channel, you'll be able to find the warm-up video. Please watch the warm-up video and please don't skip. Those warm-ups are very important. And as you will watch this video, I will specifically be referring to sections in the warm-up and parts of the warm-up. So please don't skip those. Those are important to do. So go watch the warm-ups video if you don't know what those are. And if you've been doing your warm-ups regularly, you should now start to get very much used to them. But if you're not, don't worry. But don't skip. This is important. Next, makharij-ul-huroof. This is going to be part of the extra credit in your lesson test. But what is meant by makharij-ul-huroof and makhraj, the word makhraj in Arabic, I don't know if you ever visited an Arab country, but it means exit. So on every exit sign in Arabic, it's written makhraj. And makharij-ul-huroof, harf means letter, and makharij-ul-huroof means the exits of the letter, specifically where the sound is exited from or where the noise comes from in order to make the noise. So that's called makharij-ul-huroof, or the exits of the letters. That's what this means. And there are 5 general categories. There are much more specifics into specific sections of the throat, specific sections of the nasal cavity or oral cavity where the sound comes from, but there are 5 major sections of where the sound comes from. And those are the oral cavity, al-jawf, the throat, al-halaq, the tongue, al-lisan, the lips, al-shafatayn, and the nasal cavity, al-khayshum. So part of the extra credit is you're going to need to define what does it mean, what makharij-ul-huroof mean, and what are the five major categories of or the five major sections of your mouth, or your what are the five major areas from which the exits of the or the sounds of the letters come from. So these are the five. So let's get into the first one, which is the alif. But in this section, what I'm going to differentiate for you is the alif versus the hamza. Now, I didn't go into detail into alif versus hamza in the previous lesson because hamza is not a separate letter within the Arabic alphabet. But there is a difference, and this is going to be on the self-test. What is the difference between the alif and a hamza? So basically the difference between an alif and a hamza is this, that when a movement mark, and we will go into detail on what the movement marks are, the fatha, the dhamma, the kathra, don't worry about what those are yet, but whenever a movement mark is added to an alif, it becomes a hamza. So that is the difference, that is one major difference between the alif and a hamza. Whereas alif is a long vowel, hamza is a consonant. And we will go into the difference between the alif and the hamza in a little bit as well. But understand that it's basically like versus whereas alif makes, when you add or you combine alif to a different letter such as a ba, if it's a ba alif, then it's ba. That's a long vowel. But when it is a hamza, so ba and then a hamza, so an example would be bi, bi. That sound, that is a hamza because that alif has a movement on it. And that is the difference. Hamza is a consonant, whereas alif is a long vowel. And another difference between the alif and the hamza is that the alif is pronounced from the oral cavity, while the hamza is from the throat. I'm not going to expect you to know all these differences between the alif and the hamza, but what is definitely going to be on the self-test is what is the difference, which is the primary difference, that when a movement mark is added to an alif, it becomes a hamza. And that is what the difference is. You're also going to need to recognize what a hamza looks like. So over on the screen, the long stick is the alif, but the hook looking letter is the hamza. So you're going to need to recognize that difference, and you're going to need to know that when a movement mark is added to the alif, like a dhamma, fatha, kathra, don't understand. If you don't know what that means, don't worry. But it becomes a hamza. That's when it becomes a hamza. So I'm thinking about putting this in the extra credit, but why is hamza not in the Arabic alphabet? And the answer is because it is not. It's an exceptional case. Hamza and basically it evolved from the letter ayn, and there was a different letter, and if you want you can Google this, but it's actually a morphed form or a changed form of the letter ayn, where the ayn goes as a, the hamza goes as a. That's how, and there is a reason, and there are specific reasons why it's not in the Arabic alphabet, but basically it's just a modification or a different way of writing the alif. That's what that is. So we're going to go into much more details on the movements and what is the difference between a long and a short vowel when we get into movements such as dhamma, fatha, kathra. So that is that. So what is the alif? It is very similar to the letter a in English, but here is a difference that you will notice within English. There are two words that I've defined here. One is called ban, and the other is called barter. Ban, barter. Ban, barter. So the ban, it's flat, but in the barter, it's heavy. Ba. The A is light in ban, it's flat, ban, but in barter, ba, it's heavy. So in the alif especially, is not flat, but heavy. So it's much closer to the ba sound than it is to the ba sound, ban, because that would be a separate, different vowel in the Arabic language, which might be the ya, or it might be even be the kathra, and we'll go into details into those later. But the sound is what the alif denotes. Now, this is indicated in warm-up number 12, and if you've been doing your warm-ups. Warm-up number 12 is to say the ah and then count to 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I say ah. So go look at the warm-ups video and find the say ah, a warm-up which is warm-up number 12, and you will know what I mean. And this is going to be very important when it comes to beautifying your recitation. The reason is, one of the reason that the recitation of the Arabs, and I'll go into details on this a little bit later, is beautiful, is because they are very particular and very careful about ahkam al-madud. And what is meant by ahkam al-madud is the rules related to elongation, or making something long, or making something lengthy. When we did this warm-up number 12, that is what I want you to get ready for. How to make something long, and how to make sure that you make it as long as necessary, or in this case the longest movements are 6. There are 2 movement, 4 movements, and I believe 2, 4, and 6. I could be wrong. I think it's 2, 5, and 6. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but there are cases in which those do exist. Then you have to remember, this will make your recitation beautiful. So do this warm-up again and again, and this is a letter alif. So I hope that's clear. And what's going to be on the self-test, I went into a lot of detail, but what's going to be on the self-test on this one is just the difference between the alif and the hamza, and that you are going to need to recognize the alif and the hamza separately. And you see on your screen already, on the left-hand side, right above on the screen, or alif, the stick-looking letter is the alif, where there's on the right-hand side where it says hamza, the hook-looking letter is the hamza. So I hope that's clear. Let's move on to the next one. This is the letter ba. One more time, the letter ba. It is pronounced from the lips, so it is a lip letter. Specifically, you remember just a second ago we were talking about the 5 makharij-ul-huroof, the exits points of this letter comes from the lips, and it is characterized by a meeting of the lips like this. It is like this. So ba, ba. So it is very similar to the letter B in the English language, and basically there isn't much difference between the two. Board, bing, bang, burn, borrow, all these barrel, all these words that start with the letter B, the very similar and basically almost identical is the letter ba. So I'm not going to go into much detail on that. The only other thing to remember is that it is a consonant. What is going to be on your self-test is you're going to need to recognize the letter ba, and you need to be able to pronounce it. And that's it. I'm not going to put much else on the self-test. The letter thaa. That's the next letter. This is a letter that is pronounced from the tongue. This is a tongue letter. And it is characterized by a meeting of the tip of the tongue with the top of your front teeth. But the tongue does not come out from your teeth. It doesn't exit your mouth. So the way to pronounce the thaa is like this. Thaa. 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 That's how the thaa is pronounced. But what is the difference between the thaa and the it's close but not quite. It's similar but not quite. The similarity to the letter thaa and to what you find in the English language is close is the letter T, but it is not quite the same. For example, if you remember, if you've been doing your warm-ups, and again I keep referring to the warm-ups again and again, warm-up number 2. This is warm-up number 2, in which I go over 5 words that I pronounce to you 5 words with the letter thaa, and 5 words with the letter T, actually first with the letter T and then with the letter thaa. And then I want you to hear the difference, and I want you to recognize the difference. So the thaa is characterized by your tongue remaining behind your teeth, thaa. And I want you to also, this 5 words that you see on your screen, I'm going to pronounce those first with the letter T and then with the letter thaa, and I want you to hear the difference. So that's why it's similar to the letter T but not quite. So here we go. Tan, than, that's the first. Teen, teen, that's the second. Tin, thin, that's the third. Tongue, tongue, and that's the fourth. Tour, tour, and that's the fourth. I believe that is the fifth. I'm not exactly sure. I think there was 4 or 5. I'm not sure. But you will start to hear the difference. And another characteristic to remember that the thaa does not have, that the T does have, is that when you pronounce the T, there's a slight exhalation. So if you even put your hand in front of your mouth and say Tom, Tim, Tan, Teen, Tongue, there is that little exhalation of air. The T is specifically characterized by that little exhalation of air. But the thaa is not. In the thaa, it's tan, teen, tin, tongue, tour, tom, tim, ten, tongue, tip. These, if you're starting to hear the difference, the thaa is not characterized by, it's thaa, not ta. It's thaa, not ta. Thaa, correct. Ta, incorrect. Thaa versus ta. Thaa is correct. T is incorrect. That is the difference between the letter thaa and the letter T. So I hope it's similar, but it's not quite. And again, this letter, the letter thaa, is a consonant. Moving on. The letter thaa. The letter thaa. Thaa. Again, this is another letter that is pronounced from the tongue. But this letter, in this letter, the tongue comes out between your teeth. The tongue comes out between your teeth like this, and then you say the letter S. But the difference between the thaa and the S is that when you say the letter thaa, your tongue has to be sticking out. And that is one thing that is going to be on your self-test. And if you don't do this, if you don't say the thaa like this, thaa, thaa, if you don't say the thaa with your tongue sticking out, then you're not going to get the points. So the tongue must come out between your teeth, and the exhalation of the air happens between the top of your teeth and your tongue. It's like this. Thaa, 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 thaa. So this is going to be on the self-test. It is very similar to the sound of the TH in the following words. In the English language, the TH is a very common sound. This, that, there, those, them. All of these are letters with the words with 2 starting letters, TH. And this is part of warm-up number 3, the letter thaa, and how to pronounce it, and how to stick your tongue out between your teeth, and thaa, thaa, thaa. That's part of warm-up number 3, but it's very similar to the sound that you make in the following words. This, that, there, these, thaa, 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 thaa. Okay, so warm-up number 3, and it's very similar to the TH sound in the English language. And again, the letter thaa is a consonant. Okay, moving on. The letter jeem. 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 The letter jeem is pronounced from your tongue. In this case, the jeem, in the letter jeem, the tongue comes in contact with the roof of your mouth. So the tongue meets the roof of your mouth like this. Jeem. Jeem. And similar to the following the following words in the English language. So, it's pronounced like this. Job, Jim, James, gesture. All these words started with the sound you heard is ja, job, Jim, James, gesture. That is pronounced by the letter jeem. It's very similar to the letter, or pretty much identical to the letter jeem. And I'm not going to say similar, it's pretty much identical. But it is not similar to the following words in the English language: gold, gate, get, gift. These words are pronounced with a g. And in the Arabic language, there's no g. There's only a j. Okay? So job, Jim, James, gesture, those are, those almost begin, you can say the starting is the letter jeem, j. But it is not similar to gold, gate, gift, get, because that's a g. This is a jeem, a j. Okay? So pretty close to the first four letters, or pretty much identical to the first four words, and not identical or not even close to the next four, which is gold, gate, golf, get. Those are ga, not ja. I hope that's clear. And this is a consonant. The next letter is the letter ha, and this is a difficult letter for the English speakers. The reason being that this is one of those very throaty letters that is hard for English speakers to pronounce. Again, pronounced from the throat, but the sound comes from the middle part, or the middle of your throat, but right above your chest. But it has no similarity in the English language. There is the H, but the H is not close. The reason I don't consider the H is close is because the H is close to a different letter, and we'll go into which is the ha. That's a different letter, and we'll go into that later. But it has no similarity in the English language. And this is why I've specifically written a warm-up for you, and warm-up, which is warm-up number 4, which is called clean the glass or check your breath, warm-up. In that warm-up, what I ask you to do is, imagine if you ate a bunch of onions and you need to check your breath. You go, this is the letter ha. Notice where it comes from. Ha. Ha. Similarly, imagine if you had your glasses and you needed to clean them, but you need to fog them up first. What do? You take them off and go ha. So this is the letter. The letter is ha. Ha. It is not ha. That's a different letter. This is the letter ha. 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 Or, again, this is warm-up number 4. Clean the glass, check your breath. That's the warm-up that is going to get you to recognize this letter. Very difficult for the English speaker, but this is going to be on your self-test. Again, if you don't pronounce it from deep into your throat like I've shown you, and then you're not going to get the points for this one. This is a toughie for the English speakers. So again, remember, clean the glass, check your breath. Very deep from that part of your throat. It's a little hard. Moving on. The letter khaa. The letter khaa. Khaa. This is another letter that is pronounced from your throat, but the sound comes from the middle part of your throat, right above your chest, just like the ha does. But in this case, it's somewhat similar to the KH sound that you see in English, but it is not quite the same. The closest thing I've found, and this is why I've included in your warm-ups, this is warm-up number 5, this is the clear your throat and the spit warm-up. Clear your throat and spit, which is like this. I'm sorry, but this is the only way I've found to explain to English speakers how to learn to pronounce this letter. This is a khaa. Now, I'm exaggerating a little bit. It's not khaa. That's not like that. But the reason I want you to exaggerate first is because if you don't know how to do it, first you are going to do it incorrectly before you can do it correctly. Just like walking, when a baby is learning to walk, he's going to fall. He's not going to know what to do. He's doing it incorrectly. But he must first do it incorrectly before he does it expertly and correctly. Similarly, try to do it just like I showed you in warm-up number 5. Clear your throat and spit like khaa, 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 khaa. There are plenty of explanations on the web on how to pronounce this letter, but I have found them, unless you actually hear somebody or unless you actually sit down with somebody and pronounce it to them and have them correct it and do it over and over and over again, it's gonna be difficult to get this letter, especially the one before it, the ha and the khaa. And this is another one that is a throat letter, and it is a consonant. It's warm-up number 5, by the way. Okay, next up is the exercises. You will not be able to do this exercise yourself. Sorry. You will need someone's help to do the exercise for this particular lesson. Reason being that the exercise for this one needs to be done with somebody who knows how to pronounce the letters. Again, you can the exercise for the next four lessons. I'm gonna do 7 letters per lesson. Basically, we did one alif, ba, thaa, thaa, jiim, khaa. Jeem, khaa. The 7 letters today, and the next 7, and the next 7. 7 times 4 is 28. It's going to be divided into 4 lessons. But the only way to do this exercise is someone who knows how to pronounce Arabic. You have to sit with them and you have to let them hear how you're pronouncing these letters, and then you have to let them correct it, and you have to do it over and over and over and over again. This is the only way that this exercise is going to be beneficial to you. No matter what, I cannot correct or I cannot hear you over the video on how you're pronouncing these letters. The way to get them right, the only way to get them right, is find someone who knows how to pronounce the Arabic letters and ask them to hear you while you're pronouncing these letters and have them correct it over and over again, and learn and rinse, spit, repeat. Do it over and over again. But the thing with these letters is the way that I'm explaining is not the way that is essentially like the only way to understand how these letters are pronounced. Somebody might explain it to you differently. Somebody might say this, think of the khaa this way. Or, so for example, I gave you the ha exercise, right? The clear your throat, not the clear your throat, but the clean the glass or check your breath exercise. Somebody might explain it to you differently. Or the khaa exercise, somebody might explain it to you differently. Different person, and that's a good thing. Their explanation might click with you a little bit better, and where that sound comes from. So that's why it's important to find someone who knows and do it with them. The second exercise you can do by yourself, which is again, find the letters that you learned today, the 7 letters that you learned today, and this is similar to the last exercise we did. Find the letters that you learned today and find them in the Quran, and find them and see if you can pronounce the letters, and find them and see if you can locate them in the Mus'haf yourself, in the Quran yourself. In conclusion, what did we learn? Today we learned the makharij-ul-huroof of 7 letters, where they come from. Alif, ba, thaa, thaa, jiim, khaa. Those 7 letters. We learned what is meant by makharij-ul-huroof. In the next lesson, I'm going to go over the letters dal, zal, ra, za, sin, shin, sad. The next 7, which is going to be the next 7 letters. In the self-test for this lesson, I'm going to place a lot of emphasis on pronunciation. I am not going to be satisfied, or the way that I'm going to grade the way that I'm going to point or distribute the points of the lesson test. In the last one, I didn't place much emphasis on pronunciation, and this one, pretty much all the emphasis is going to be on pronunciation. And I'm going to write it in the self-test to let the tester know that if you don't, for example, in the thaa, if you don't stick your tongue out like that, thaa, then you're not gonna, I'm not gonna have you give them the point, have them give you the points. Similarly, if you don't pronounce the ha like that, ha, then I'm not gonna have them give you the points. The reason is it's very, very important to get these pronunciations correctly, and I hope this helps you in pronouncing these letters. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video to help spread this knowledge. And I hope to see you next time. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.